Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the German Tier 8 Tech Tree Heavy Tank, the VK4502A. Now if you do like the video, as always don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the VK4502A, it's a very, very meh heavy tank. It's basically the Tiger II's worst brother. That's pretty much it. It's just worse than a Tiger II. It's not like the VK101P, which I think is worse than the Tiger II. So I still think the Tiger II is one of the best Tech Tree heavy tanks in the game right at this point in time. At Tier 8, that is, obviously. But the VK101P has a different playstyle. It's that super heavy playstyle. It hits harder. You know, all that good stuff. It's got a lot of differences. It's a lot slower as well. This tank is very, very similar to the Tiger II, but just generally, it's just kind of worse. You've got worse penetration. The gun handling is generally worse. The mobility is very, very similar. The armor on it is generally, for me anyway, worse than the Tiger II as well. Especially since the Tiger II has been buffed so many times. Which means that it's just kind of, yeah, it's very meh. It's a very, very meh tank. I don't really think it's bad. It's just more like, you know, what's good about it, right? You know what I mean? You've got 200 penetration on the standard AP round on this vehicle, which is fairly low, with 950 meters a second shell velocity. You've got 244 penetration on the premium APCR rounds, which is 1,188 meters a second shell velocity, which means you've got slightly below average shell velocity on your standard AP, with below average AP penetration on the standard AP too. And then you've got 244 pen on the APCR, which is, again, it's alright. You can pen a lot of tanks with that, but it still struggles at times. This tank was buffed recently up to a lot, like what a lot of the other German heavies were. They're buffed up to 360 alpha, which definitely is very, very nice for the VK4502A. It makes it a bit more punchier, which is good. But, yeah, the general gun handling, like I say, is not as great as it, or not as good as it feels like it should be. And then to add in that your penetration is a bit lackluster, especially if you end up in Tier 9 and 10 games, yeah, it can be a bit of pain. And adding obviously as well the fact that the armor is a bit iffy as well. It can be decent when you hull down, but the hull armor can struggle at times. It's a bit frustrating to use. You've got 0.65 accuracy during rotation, which is pretty good, with 1.52 accuracy during movement with the build that I have, which again means the gun doesn't actually bloom out that badly. With a 2.03 second aim time, it does aim in pretty quickly as well. You've got 38 km/h top speed on this vehicle with a 14.74 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you do hit that top speed, and you will get to 38 km an hour. It does feel fairly maneuverable, but then so does a Tiger II, right? So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on this vehicle? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Track Mechanic, and Rapid Aim. Rapid Aim to get the turret traverse up to 34 degrees a second, so it's way quicker than the hull traverse. The 3 gun perks to make this gun as good as possible, because otherwise it's a little bit derpy at times, and even with all the gun perks, it's still a little bit derpy sometimes. You sit there going, how did that miss gun? Come on now. You know, that kind of thing. And then all the other perks are generally what I'd run on most other vehicles in World War II. And then in terms of equipment, the advanced loader to make the DPM as good as possible, get it up to that 2,822 DPM that we have, which is a 7.66 reload with the build that we've got, which is pretty good for 360 alpha. And then add on top of that, we have the vertical state, or the gun stabilizer, sorry, to get that accuracy during movement and rotation down as low as possible, and coated optics to be able to actually spot for ourselves, have 499 meters of view range, and when we get those big open maps, we're not blind, we're not screwed, and we can actually get some good assistance damage. So as you can see, with that first replay that we just had there on Pilsen, which realistically is a very good map for the VK4502A, we finished the game with the 5 kills, 4.6k damage, 492 assistance, the ace tank of the Dimitrius, the high caliber, 1879 base XP. A pretty damn nice game there for the VK4502A. And that's, like I said, that's kind of the perfect map for it, because, well, you can go get hull down in certain sections, you can side scrape where you need to, because the tank can be decent at side scraping, because you do have a very flat side armor. It's like the Tiger II in that way. Very flat side armor, which is 80mm thick. The whole side armor is 80mm thick, which means, yeah, it is pretty good at side scraping, just like the Tiger II is. Tiger II is exactly the same. the hull armor, like I say, on the upper plate, having that 150mm upper plate, can ricochet quite a lot, but as soon as you start to face tier 9 and 10 premium rounds, they start to go through your upper plate quite easily, which can be pain. Your lower plate is 120mm thick, which is also fairly well angled as well, which means you can actually bait quite a few shots off the lower plate when you're facing tier 7s. They can actually bounce quite a bit off of this. But when you're facing tier 9s and 10s, they absolutely butcher your poor armor. Tiger 2 has that problem as well, but since they buffed the upper plate and the turret front of the Tiger 2, it bounces a hell of a lot more than this thing does. But that reload on the vehicle at that is pretty nice on it, having that 2.8k DPM. But again, with the Tiger 2 setup, the Tiger 2 has slightly worse DPM with that 360 Alpha, right? You got 7.75 second reload with that vehicle with the setup that I have on there, and that's 2,786 DPM, so you're about 100 less DPM. But the accuracy is so much better. The accuracy during movement is better. The accuracy during rotation is worse. The aim time is about the same. The mobility is the same, although it's slightly more sluggish because it has a worse power to weight ratio. But the armor generally works far better, and the view range is also better. The shell velocity is way better at 1,100 with 1,375 meters a second shell velocity on the APCR, and you got 225 pen on that standard APCR as well, with 225 pen on the standard AP rounds, sorry, with 285 penetration on the premium APCR rounds, which means penetration-wise, you never really struggle that much in the Tiger 2, whereas this tank can have games, especially in tier 10s, where you sit there going, well, I can't really do much here, you know, has that pain. But yeah, the Tiger 2 is just basically a better version of this vehicle, and it's kind of sad for the VK4502A, especially when you've got a whole line, you know, you've got to grind through it to get to the VK4502B and the Panzer 7, right? So this second replay, we are on this map, which is Live Oaks. We've gone dip or die, because that's what you want to do. If we take the train tracks, and especially from the side that we spawned, we have to do dip or die. We've got to get to this position here and take the dip like we did. We pushed aggressively, we're up to 2.8k damage, and we won it. Because if we don't win that dip, it is very easy to get encircled at GH0. And that team that gets encircled there tends to lose very, very easily because they get caught in a very big crossfire. If you're from that spawn that we were in, you have to get this dip won. It's just the way it is to win this map and to win this flank, essentially. It's pretty decent tank for using in this location because we are a tall tank, which means it is a little bit awkward sometimes when we are fighting in this position because we've got to find the right spot to make sure we're not overexposing our lower plate. But we do have 8 degrees of gun depression in the VK4502A, which means that we can use a ridgeline pretty effectively. And again, we can use the pretty good turret armor that this vehicle does have, because this tank does have 245mm of thickness on that turret front, which again is the same as the Tiger 2, and that means you can ricochet quite a bit off of there if you're using your full width of your gun depression, because it makes the angle better. So the VK4502A can be good in that situation. To be honest, it's more wanting to be hull down than it is in the open these days, because the hull armor, yeah, just doesn't stand up. Even against tier 8s, when they're firing full prem, it starts to go badly for you. So we're up to 3.9k damage with 531 assistance. We managed to win this flank over here by staying hull down, getting shots into that campy Panzer as well. It is a tier 9 game. And we got detected there as we poked over the train tracks, so I thought maybe there was something on there. Sniper hill. We go for the shot into the side of the object 416, who got spotted in the little dip at G1, but sadly the shell just dropped low and hit the dirt. I'm expecting someone to get spotted on that sniper hill because there's always someone there. And there it is. Hello, Mr. SU-130PM. Shot straight through the upper plate there of the SU-130PM, putting us up to 4,300 damage and 531 assistance. And we're now on the move towards the General and the 416 that are in the dip at G12. We also know the Artie's probably going to be there too, and because I've still got a decent amount of hit points, I'm quite confident in the fact that I can go over and take a hit. I mean, the General probably could have clipped us out there, but to be honest, he was so preoccupied with someone else that I was quite confident in just pulling over. We did get the shot into that General, and he basically lost most of his health to the TD behind us. We know he's reloading, so we're going. It's like, hello, sir. We finish off the General. The 416 pens us and tracks us. He's stock as well, so he had no problem penning us with his stock gun. which only has like 190 penetration, so that says a lot about tracking and penning this quite easily there. But we found the artillery, and we didn't pen the artillery for 600 there. He took a hit before we managed to get the shot in, but we managed to kill him, which we always take the kill on the piggy. And we finished with the victory, 3 kills, 5.3k damage, 783 assistance, the Prescutus medal, the ace tanker, the high caliber, 2047 base XP. A pretty damn nice game there in the VK4502A, kind of showing off what it's like. And again, thank you to that person that asked for this vehicle, because yeah, it's a tank that you don't see very often. It's because, well, the Tiger 2 is just better, and it's prettier, the Tiger 2, than this vehicle, so you're always more likely to see that on the battlefield, and you're always more likely to see people showing it off as well, because who doesn't love playing the Tiger 2? So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success!